Hola, mi nombre es Angelo Colina. I would put Venezuelan cheese in my immigrant jam.
No me digas! O-M to the G. People, welcome back to Immigrant Jam, the podcast, le podcast, el podcast. I'm Lucy Pohl, your host. Yes, we are back. It's true. We went on a hiatus, on a sabbatical, you may say, or just disappeared for a while unexpectedly. But that happens in life, and we're back. Thank you so much for embarking back onto the Immigrant Jam journey of life with us. I've missed you, and I can't wait to get this started. Right off the top, I have to tell you guys, I have a show in New York this Saturday. Please come. Saturday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. Come, please. It's called The German Problem because being German is a problem for me. But enough about me. Now you talk about me. Now I must introduce you to the guest of the hour. I'm so excited that he's here. We've been going back and forth for a while. We've wanted him to come on. By we, I just mean me. He is a comedian, a man about town, a sensation, you may say. He does comedy in English and Spanish. He's lived all over the place. We're going to find out everything. Please welcome the amazing Mr. Angelo Colina.
Thank you so much, Lucy. What a great intro. And also, I got to say, I love the word embarking.
Embarking is a good word.
That was a good choice.
Thank you.
It was a really good choice.
I was trying to be like, thank you for embarking on the Immigrant Jam yacht, but I was like, it's not a yacht.
That would have been too much.
That would have killed it.
That would have been too much already.
Yes,
yeah, I wouldn't have liked that.
Embarking is a good word. I
That's a good word.
agree. Angelo, you have embarked on some journeys of your own, but you were born in Venezuela, right?
Yes, I was. I was born in Venezuela. And I lived there for about 20 years. And then I moved to Colombia, where I lived for 2 years. We have Colombians fans here. We are Colombian fans ourselves.
Lead to Colombia.
Yep.
It's
true.
They
do. We just said it.
We just met up at Devoción, which is a Colombian coffee shop.
Best coffee shop in New York City.
Best coffee shop in New York
I think
City,
it's the best coffee in New York City. And I think I can say that because I did live in Colombia.
That is true.
So I think I get to say that.
And the barista, you said, very Colombian, very forward man. I think he caressed my hand as he gave me back my change. I was like, what's happening right now? He was like, here you go. And then he cupped the bottom of my hand and took his other hand and put it on top of my hand and kind of rubbed the change into my hand. Is that a Colombian way to give change back?
I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's always walking that thin line between kind of that's what it was for me there. That thin line between harassment and being super nice. You can't really, but it's certainly.
It's like cute but psycho. It's kind of that same
Not all the
thing.
time. And it's everybody, I gotta say.
It's everybody?
Yeah,
men and
I'm
women?
sure men are way worse because, but women are too. They can be, in my case, I get really uncomfortable if I don't know somebody's already touching me a lot, and they do. But they're very affectionate.
In my case, that's a pretty normal reaction to be uncomfortable if someone who you don't know is touching you. You're in my weird Venezuelan case.
No, I'm just saying some guys would enjoy it right away, whereas you know what I mean. Even if
I think it's healthy. I think you're healthy. I think that's a healthy reaction.
Well, you'd be one of the first ones to say, no, I'm kidding. But no, yeah, it's like a thing. It's something about boundaries, yeah.
Right, of course. But you're from Maracaibo, is that true?
I'm from Maracaibo, yeah.
And where's that in Venezuela?
So Maracaibo is actually very close to Colombia, which is the reason why I was very familiar already with the culture. It's only 3 hours away to get to Colombia from Maracaibo. Driving, yeah. And you go through Guajira, which is that's what we share a lot. That's why Colombians or Venezuelans are so similar. We used to be one same country, and so to me it wasn't that big of a cultural thing. But Bogota certainly is different to the rest of the country.
Is Maracaibo a small city or?
It's a big city actually, and I would say it's the second most important city of the country. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
That's a state where oil was found in Venezuela. So it was also the first Venezuelan movie was made in Maracaibo.
What's the movie?
I don't remember the name.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
But
I saw it in
Somebody
school.
Google this.
I just don't remember. But yeah, it's certainly the second most important city of the country. Yeah.
Okay, so you were used to living in a big city, and so then moving to Bogota was kind of like not that big of a stretch.
I might get in trouble here, but some people are gonna back me up. Maracaibo is a big city because again, that's a state where oil was found, and then suddenly they had like a lot of money, and so it's a big city but still a town. You know what I mean? It's one of like those. It's like what would be a good example? I feel like Houston is a good example.
Okay.
Like people say Houston, it's such a city. I don't think so.
Houston kind of sucks, doesn't it?
I'm not gonna say that. I got shows in Houston on the 13th and 14th, and I love it. I love you people so much. I would love you a lot more if you came to my shows on the 13th and 14th of September in Spanish. But yeah, so that's Maracaibo. It's like that.
Houston's
it's like that feeling of
Sorry.
like
I mixed it up with Dallas.
right. Yes, right. Yeah, let's say that's what happened. But yeah, it's like that feeling
So it
of
has
like
a small town feel.
it does.
Is your family from Maracaibo?
They are from Maracaibo, yes, and I got family from Los Andes, which is like also close for the other side. That's pretty close to Colombia, and these people are like a lot more chill and sweet. They're very sweet, and so I think my family had a really good combo because in Maracaibo we're very loud and we're very like. Yeah, very.
That's what you're known for. Like if somebody
Yeah.
like you know how people say New Yorkers are rude and loud, and so if someone from Maracaibo walks in the door in Venezuela, they're like, oh, here we go.
With Maracaibo, yeah, there was actually a certain moment, I remember this, where if you travel to a town, would say a beach town, there are a lot of hotels would had on the door a note that said, no maracuchos allowed. Like, yeah. And I mean, I saw that as a kid. I remember that. That's a thing. That's something that happened. I don't know
Like,
if people
they were
speak about that.
serious or that was a
They were
joke?
serious because
Oh my god.
people are very loud. We're very kind too, very nice people. But very loud for sure. I don't think anybody there would tell you, oh, no, we're not loud. I think even we know, because people sometimes are not aware of it, But my family had that combo of like being loud, but also being sweet. And so it's like a good balance. So a lot of the times people don't know I'm from Maracaibo because of that.
Why did you decide to move to Bogota?
I was looking for a better future, better quality of life. Pretty much. That's how bad. This is what we try to tell people all the time. Like Venezuela was going through it so bad that Colombia was a great choice, like an amazing one. And it always is. Don't get me wrong. I love Colombia, but it was like so much better. Like it was a quality of life I hadn't had as an adult.
Meaning, because I think a lot of people listening don't know what that means, So what does that mean, like in practical terms?
It's just weird to explain to people because it's hard to believe, but this is true. Like maybe the last 5 years I lived in Venezuela, we could spend maybe 4 days without electricity sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's like. I'm talking about electricity. I'm not talking,
for sure.
Like,
it's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing that then we get to live a regular life. And so I think that's the reason why people just try to make the best out of anything when they leave the country. They try to make the best opportunities out of everything. I'm going to speak for the good side, of course. I'm never going to, it's not that I'm not going to acknowledge the people that are doing wrong things. It's just that I feel like we need to speak about the ones that are killing it too.
Right, for sure.
And there's there are a lot of people that make me feel proud of being Venezuelan because it's very hard to come from those circumstances and still make it and still try to have a regular life and pretending everything's okay. But you get flashbacks sometimes. So yeah, that wasn't long ago. And it's something like not being able to take a shower because there's no electricity for the thing to work and get some water on your house. And how do you explain that, And so living in Colombia, which is like very similar people and having these things, which are regular things, still having crime and other things for sure. This is so sad and so lame so far.
No,
I'm sorry,
not
but
at all.
this
What
is.
are you talking about?
But it's it's crazy to think that way. But I was the happiest I had ever been at the time in Colombia. I was so grateful.
I don't think it's sad. I mean, it's sad, of course, the reality of it, but I think that it's part of life. And I think it's so important to talk about it because I feel that, most people living in the U.S. obviously can't wrap their heads around what that means. And like when you say flashbacks and stuff like that, I'm sure it's something you carry with you, but at the same time, it probably makes you appreciate the things that you have so much more and actually contributes to you living like a happier life, right?
And that happens to a lot of immigrants. I feel like sometimes I'm shaming like my friends because I feel like they have become first world citizens a lot. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, are you really complaining about that? You're becoming like you're being very like sometimes I feel like there's this feeling of like, oh, I get to do this now. I get to complain about this. And I'm like, yeah, you can complain about stuff, but it can always be worse. And so, yeah, in my case, I really try to make things. I try to have a golden retriever type of personality. It's like, what do you mean, guys? It's all good. There's coffee here. Like
right.
Anything's already good for me. I really try to be uplifting in those terms. And whenever I find myself being like too comfortable with this type of life, I try to remind myself the things that I'm going through. And I go through that. Like my family's still in Venezuela. I got my grandparents there,
Well, I was going to say the other thing that is, nobody wants to leave their home. That's the other thing. I mean, I think it's so interesting because on one hand, moving to another place, I think, is a really important experience to have in life, if it's possible to have that experience. At the same time, moving to another place because you have to leave your place because there's no opportunities or no electricity or just the quality of life is so bad is painful, right? So it's like this weird thing that you end up carrying with you, I guess, where there's like the painful side and then there's the exciting side, obviously, and the side where you're growing and learning by being somewhere else, but nobody wants to leave their place.
That's the thing, though. I don't know. There's one thing for sure, and I remember one of my closest friends at the time. Like he always felt like he wasn't from Maracaibo, and he would always tell me that, like, man, I don't feel connected to people here. And he grew up there, like his entire life,
right?
And ever since he started saying that, and then I started getting more exposed to like the internet or other stuff, it'd be like, oh, can you do this? Can you
just leave?
Can you? Yeah, no. Can you just be this way? Can you? Be in this, act in this certain way without being judged? Can you, like having this approach to things, like being a little bit more free? Because at the end of the day, you're very, especially in a city that is actually a town, people are very, judgy about anything that's not ordinary.
Right.
And so art gets limited in that sense. It's not, the attempt is not as celebrated as it should be, the way it is in New York, which is, I mean, I can't compare it, of course, but that thing that we have here where an attempt is celebrated, an attempt to something different, even with clothes. When I see somebody, with like fashion, you see somebody trying something, I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like I love that people can try.
And that is kind of singular to New York, though, don't you feel like? Do you think it's a U.S. thing or I always feel like that's a very particular New York thing.
It's very New York, but it's for sure something you can see in like Chicago, L.A. Like it's a big city type of thing, but New York, it's like a lot more. But that was the thing about like growing up in Maracaibo. I knew I wanted to live in New York. I didn't think it was a possibility, and I didn't know that just by leaving my country that's what was going to happen. And when you say nobody wanted to leave, if I could, I wouldn't change a thing in my life because I don't think I would have been able to do comedy,
Right.
the way I even do it, hadn't I gone through everything I went through.
Of course.
You know, and so
Of course.
and that's why I can relate to different people, and so it might sound like selfish, but I wouldn't have changed it when it was bad too, because when it was bad for me, I was also experiencing things that I didn't know I could experience, you know?
Yeah.
And so
this is what enlightenment looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
No, for sure. That's the way to see it. I think that, you know, obviously, especially when you do anything connected to the arts and you have to create something out of nothing, you know, adversity unfortunately helps. I'm not one of those people that says like every artist has to struggle, but I think that it pushes you to find yourself. It pushes you to find out what you actually want, what it is that you're actually going for. You know, what is it that you're willing to sacrifice, and what is it actually about for you, like at its core, right?
And you make it count,
Right?
Like you're gonna try to make the best out of an opportunity because we have fewer.
Yeah, right.
Just so, like, you have less shots, and then you really have to make it count. When I left to Colombia, I was working my background is being an English and a Spanish teacher. It's funny how people sometimes you be like, you were an English teacher, but I know
your English is perfect.
No, but you know how people can be. But I love grammar. I'm a grammar freak, and
You love grammar?
I do, I really do, and in both languages.
Why do you love grammar?
It just, I feel like it doesn't matter how thick your accent is. If grammar is in the right place, you're gonna understand like what the other person is saying.
Interesting.
And so, and I'm pretty organized in general. I like order, and but in both languages, in Spanish too. And I love having an accent too. Like I remember trying to speak as perfect as I could, and then when I got to New York, I was like, oh wait, I can speak like a Puerto Rican. I'm gonna do it. And then you kind of like relax a little bit more.
Yes.
And it was the same in Spanish actually. I remember trying to sound more Colombian when I was in Colombia.
Right.
And then when I was here in New York, I'm like, oh, nobody gives a fuck. And so you can just be yourself. And then
But I love that you said I can speak like a Puerto Rican. Then you're again, because in New York, to be a real New Yorker, you have to be Puerto Rican.
I think you just become one. It's not,
Yes.
It's not a
exactly,
choice. New Yorican.
No,
that's
for
how
sure.
they call it.
I grew up here, and I always say, like, me and my little German girlfriends that I had, we'd get together and we'd pray every night that we'd wake up Puerto Rican. But then we just started talking like this a little bit, and people would be like, oh my God, where are you from in Puerto Rico? We'd be like, you know,
that's a really good impression. That's a really good
Belly.
impression. That's a really good impression.
But that was pre-cultural appropriation, so that was the 90s.
They
we
don't
were
care.
allowed to do that.
I think they
No, we took it very far. Like me and my friend Philippa von Stackelberg, the most German last name ever, in the 90s for Halloween one year, we dressed up as the Puerto Rican flag.
You dressed, that may have been too far.
Yeah.
But you were.
That was her idea.
You know, you're just.
Yeah, we dressed up as a Puerto Rican flag, and then she started gelling her baby hairs to her face, which I heard. I never did it. I never did it. Which
fun.
I heard from, you know, Rojo Perez?
Yeah.
He's Puerto Rican. He's a Puerto Rican comic, for those of you listening. Really awesome guy. And I was telling him the story, and we were laughing. And he was like, by the way, that's a New York thing. He was like, growing up in Puerto Rico,
something you see
we don't
there.
do that. Like, we never gelled our baby hairs to our face.
Well, but
it's like 100% that's a New Yorican thing.
It makes sense. I mean, I just did a joke about like it's actually a lot more complex. You know, the reason why they wear the flag all the time because it was banned from a certain, and now they show it all the time, which is great. Yeah. But I was speaking about it, and somebody in Puerto Rico said, yeah, that's something Puerto Ricans in New York do or in the States, but we don't do it here. And I'm like, well, of course, that makes sense. I'm not going to tweet on my Twitter feed. I'm not going to go follow me on Twitter. No. Like you won't, you know, you're already there. It makes sense. You just do it outside.
Yes.
I didn't wear anything related to Venezuela unless it was like when we were protesting or something, you know?
Right, of course.
And then people, when they leave, they start kind of like, you know.
Yeah, or also I think whenever, you know, immigrants also try to keep a community and so they kind of become more of the thing that of their nationality than they were in their country, right? They like celebrate it more. They
Yeah.
show it more. Because they're trying to also like preserve the community and hold it together.
Sometimes it's that, and
represent
sometimes it can be identity crisis. Sometimes
Identity
they feel
crisis,
feel
totally.
so far from it. They're like,
Exactly.
this is what I've been told I should be, so
Yes.
I'm gonna wear this. But
And I had that. I went to an international school here, growing up here, so I was around a lot of kids like that. That like tried to like go further into the nationality of their parents or where they were born, even though they never lived there really, because they had this identity crisis and were looking for something to connect to. I had it too. I moved to Berlin after high school because I was like, am I really German? Like, how do I feel? And then I was like, I am not German. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
I think people lack some empathy when it comes to that. Actually, people who and now I'm going to speak for the immigrants. I feel like sometimes they can lack empathy with they're lacking empathy with I don't know, say I'm going to speak for Latinos. Latinos that grew up here or that were born here, both actually. Sometimes they want to connect like a lot because they feel, misplaced. They say,
Yeah.
am I American? Am I this? Because I've been told I'm this.
Exactly.
But I know more about TV here than I know about TV there. I know more about music. I don't know about slang.
Yep.
But
Sometimes they don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That most of the time.
Yeah.
That's actually, like, statistically, it's like a lot more of the time. And so, and we see that actually at doing the shows in Spanish. Like, I have the interactions with them at the end of the shows in English. Like, I can do the entire show in Spanish, and 60-70% of the time, it's me outside hearing, what a great show, good show. Like, it's in English.
Just to interject real quick, because we didn't really like specifically say this. Angelo does most of his shows, stand-up shows in Spanish, and he's kind of like breaking ground in that area a little bit, I would say, right? That like you're making something become like mainstream that hasn't been mainstream, to do like big theater shows and big tours with stand-up in Spanish in the U.S., not in Spanish, quote, speaking countries, which the U.S. is obviously a Spanish-speaking country, but
right,
in
of
that
course.
sense.
Yeah, I'm part of a generation. I'm
Yeah.
part of a generation of people that are pushing through it and trying to make it on the mainstream while living here. Because I
Right.
think that's the main difference. A lot of
Exactly.
international comedians come here, do the shows, and then that's different because they
It's a
connect.
one-off.
And they connect
or a
more with
tour.
their own nationality.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're going to speak about their reality.
Right.
Whereas we live here. And
Yep.
so I have a lot more in common with a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, a Colombian that lives here in New York than I have with a Venezuelan that just moved here
Totally.
or still lives there.
Yeah.
And they don't connect with me as much sometimes. I'm
Right,
not even
and that's
known
so
there, I don't
interesting.
think.
Is that sad for you though? Like, do you feel like because I think it's always really interesting, this like cross-cultural thing that happens, right? You leave your country, you go somewhere else, and then this thing that you talk about, people are told you're this, right? Even with me, like, I have such a conflict with it because here a lot of the times I'm the German girl or the European, and then when I'm in Germany, I'm the American girl. And sometimes I get so annoyed that people always have to box you into something, and that you always have to like, okay, but most people have a national identity, right? And so they try to put you in some sort of place where they can like understand what you are. So I guess I get it. But I think that there's like an upside to it, and then sometimes there's like a painful side to this like loss of national identity, which happens when you move away and you kind of then you become this kind of like amorphous creature of you're kind of I feel like we've gotten rid of gender identities. Like I'm like, we need to get rid of national identities,
Yeah, especially, I mean, the thing about New York that's actually beneficial for us is that people relate more to New York than to America.
Totally.
Like New Yorkers say, I'm
Yeah.
a New Yorker. Like somebody who is from here and has been here for a while, they say that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because nobody's from here at the same time. It's so
Exactly.
weird. It's like, it really is hard to describe. And we're certainly not going to crack the case here, but I'm just saying, like, that's something that really makes me feel comfortable about it. But the thing with Venezuela, yeah, like a lot of the times, yeah, I feel so glad when I see somebody that's there saying, "Oh, I like your stuff," and I'm like, because of course, how can they relate? They can only relate when I speak something about Venezuela, I guess. But you know, I'm less exposed. I had never met a Dominican until I moved here. You know, and that's my life now. Most of my friends are. And so, or knowing how Colombians speak, or Argentinians, or Mexicans here, Mexicans in Texas, Mexicans in LA, like different people, different way of like different speed, different rhythm. So I guess it can be sad at times, but it's also like, oh, I'm so lucky I get to know a little bit more of like, you know, everybody else and see how much we do have like in common, because we do have a lot in common, and just immigrants in general. Actually, I was gonna say that you can just relate regardless of the country. There's something about it. It happens to me a lot that I get a lot of Italians at the show that are learning Spanish, a lot of Brazilians too, just a lot of people in general. I've gotten even Russians. Like there's a
that went to the wrong show. No, I'm kidding.
There's actually a video I got that from an account I'm gonna send it to you. It's an account in Russia.
Okay.
And it's my stand-up set in Spanish with Russian subtitles.
That's so cool. Like, how do you think having left your country and coming here and living in a different place, like, how do you think that changes you? Or like, what do you think that gives you?
It's just one word. It's perspective. It's like you're thinking that's the world, you know?
Right.
Like, I remember being, oh man, this is sad. I remember being in Venezuela just in the protest, and I remember the rage people had over the fact that the world was not acknowledging the protest enough. And that was 2014. At the same time, Ukraine was having protests at the same time, 2014. And I remember people in Ukraine raising Venezuelan flags, and we will be doing the same with Ukraine. We have nothing in common. We only had in common that we were going through it, you know, and that we weren't being heard. And then I moved here, and once you leave and you're trying, in my case, I'm really trying to be happy all the time. It's like, I got no time to waste. I gotta be happy, and if I can help other people, of course I will. But it gives you perspective on the fact that this is happening in other places now, and I'm not paying as much attention. I know enough, but maybe I'm not doing enough. But it gives you a perspective on how the world just keeps going, and it's a sad one, but it's a real one too, because it has to keep moving.
But you must feel also proud in a way that you're like repping Venezuela, right?
Most of my crowd, depending on where we are at, is not going to be Venezuelan. It's just people who speak Spanish.
Right.
And so I tend to be more put into the Latino category, where it's like, I can show you a tweet. Actually, I was going to do a reel about it. I always get like notifications when my name is tweeted. And there was one that said, last night I saw this Dominican stand-up comedian, Angelo Colina. And 2 weeks ago it was the Pittsburgh Improv, by the way, where I had a great show, amazing crowd. The Pittsburgh Improv, like the Improv, said, Colombian comedian Angelo Colina.
Oh shit! The Pittsburgh Improv said that.
Well, they actually said Andrew Colina. They also fucked up my name, but you know, what can we?
And what's your reaction to that? Is that like, ugh, gringos?
No, I made a reel about it, and we sold like 100 tickets that day because we made fun of it.
So you thought it was funny?
I thought it was funny. Yeah, some people were like, "What the fuck, man?" I'm like,
"What's the secret to that type of enlightenment? Like, why doesn't it make you angry?" Oh, there's a lot of people that be like, "What the fuck? Why can't these white people get it right?" You know what I mean?
The first instinct is like, "Come on, man," but it's never like angry. You know, I can be angry at when it's something like really hurts, but that one is like, okay, how can I make this funny? That's our job. And also, there's one thing that people don't speak about enough. We're so different. Like, we are so different, not only nationality wise, but just background wise and like generational wise. Like, it happens to every nationality. Saying Latino is like saying European.
Exactly.
And people
Totally.
don't mix those two for some reason.
And that's
like
only
there's
in the
Latino
US.
and there's Italian.
Right.
There's not. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
but only in the U.S. do they say
For sure.
European. In Europe, nobody calls themselves European.
it's the same. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's what I say. Like, I
Right.
never mentioned even the word Latino until I moved here.
Right.
You know, you're not one until you're really outside. You know, I'm like,
So true,
That's what
yeah.
I said. In Venezuela, I was a Venezuelan,
Right.
and in Colombia, I was a fucking Venezuelan. You know, like I was another. No, if I love you. They know. They come to the show, so they love that. But yeah, I think it's just. And it's funny how I remember being in Utah. I lived in Salt Lake City, Utah for 2 years.
Wow.
Anyway, yes, I lived there. And when I got there, I remember my boss. I worked at a T-Mobile for 6 months.
Wow.
And-
A T-Mobile store?
A T-Mobile store. And when I was there, I remember my manager saying, white dude, of course, had probably met 3 Latinos in his life. And he was like, okay, we're going to order some Mexican food. I'm sure yours is going to be extra spicy, right? And we don't have spicy food in Venezuela. Spicy food is not a thing in Venezuela.
Right.
It's not
Yes.
even a thing in the Caribbean. Like, if you speak to
Yeah.
people, you usually see how they fear spicy food. They go, no, they don't like it.
Right.
And so a lot of Americans have not realized that Mexico's just right next. Like, there's so much more in common sometimes.
Right.
Like, a lot more than
Yeah.
for us that we're so far away from it. You know, we only share the language and
Yeah.
there's certain stuff, of course. But yeah, that's what it is. We're different.
In a way, the biggest thing that unites everybody is the discrimination.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
100%. It happened to Bad Bunny, and that I don't know if you remember that caption where he was like singing, and the subtitle said something like "singing in a foreign language" or something like that. You know, and he acknowledged it. You know, I think that was the first thing he said in SNL. But I think musicians are a good example because musicians are. Everybody's proud of them, you know. Not only Puerto Ricans are proud of Bad Bunny. Everybody who speaks Spanish is proud of him. Karol G too, you know, like they're proud of artists because they're taking it to the next level, and people don't realize this is not about themselves. This creates jobs, you know,
So
because
true.
then they need staff who speak Spanish to help people at the concerts. They usually employ just Latino staff, you know. There's so much to it, you know. Now you need somebody at a radio show to interview them, and then you need somebody who speaks Spanish to write an article about it, or that has a little bit of cultural background. Like, it just keeps going and going and going, and that's it's starting to happen. To unify a little bit more the Latino thing. I'm just gonna give you a quick thing what that I learned back home. I remember thinking, and that's the thing about perspective. I remember thinking, women are not funny, and I mean that. I remember thinking that, yeah, as a kid thinking that,
right.
and I remember my best friend explaining to me. I was probably like, I don't know, 13, 14 at the time, and she explained to me. She's like my friend who, you know, the voice of reason. She's also older, and she said, she was like, well, she knew a lot more about American culture, and she was like, no, these women that you see on TV are written by men. And I remember when Bridesmaids came, and that's a good example. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm from Venezuela. Like, a lot of the things people think at the time are not their fault. It's just surroundings. Until people just start experiencing, you know, the internet or just anything, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, for a long time, there's of course individual responsibility at a certain point of your life. You can't excuse yourself at 38. But, you know, or 20, but it doesn't. We don't have to go
You're
that
like,
far.
you can't excuse yourself at 67.
Yeah, but that's one thing. I think Latino characters were written by people who weren't Latino,
Right. Yeah.
and so that's what's gonna change when we are in the positions. There's not a lot of us in positions of power yet.
No, exactly. And I think that's exactly the important thing, right? To make people aware, yes, it's not just like a blanket Latino thing. It's like different cultures, different histories, different, you know, so many differences. You know, sometimes also the language is different, the words that you use. So exactly, it's about getting the people to tell the stories so you understand what it actually is, and not from the perspective of people from the U.S. who don't know enough.
It's like Latino US, which is a certain category too.
Yeah.
Because I remember it's also empathy. I remember I got here and I was like, why do all these people all the time just say café con leche and chancleta and tia and abuela and that's it? Like I'm not that. That was me in a nutshell the first year. Because that is a lot of people's reality. That is how they speak. But at the beginning when I got here, I was like judgy of it, and that's what I mean. I think it's all about. It all comes to empathy. It's like, oh, okay, oh, they are different. Oh, of course, this is why he didn't learn Spanish because, it wasn't. He grew up in Milwaukee or, whatever. So.
Yeah, or exactly. They don't know. Like when people say, oh, you're so many people say that to me all the time. You're so European. And I'm always like, that's not a thing. Like nobody in Europe, like the countries are so different.
Right, exactly.
The cultures are, and it's so bizarre because they're next to each other. So like they share borders, but Germany and France are two very different places and people are very different. Germany and Italy, France and Italy, So I think, like you said, empathy is so important because I think it's better to have a reaction of like, okay, let me explain to you that it's different or let me show it to you than to kind of
assume already.
Out.
Yeah,
or be like, okay, you're an idiot. There is a chosen ignorance, but then there's a lot of people that just don't have the experience of it,
I'm not. That's why I say the example of me doing it because I want to call myself an ignorant. Everybody has been, and we still are. I'm sure I am. I am in a lot of things, But it's just about okay. Let me learn a little bit. But I think it all comes to that. It all eventually comes to it like, oh, look, this is why these people are not speaking to me. This is why this movie doesn't speak to me. This is why this Latino character doesn't speak to me. I remember watching that John Leguizamo show. What was the name of the show?
Ghetto Clown?
No, it was like his first... Freak. His first one-man show. Was it the first one?
It wasn't his first, but it was the one
of like
that
the main
was the
one.
biggest success. Yeah.
I remember a close friend of mine, my manager actually said, you should watch it. And then I did, and I was like, oh, I'm not related to this because I'm not from New York, but I can see a lot of people now. I can understand now.
That's so funny because I also watched that and thought like, oh man, I'll never be able to be that relatable. Because he comes out at the beginning of the special and he goes, hey, all my Latinos bark or something like that. All my black people meow. And then he's like, all my white people. And then he says like a super long sentence in Spanish. Do you remember? And the white people can't say it. So it's a laugh. But he immediately like establishes his community of people. And I remember sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to, what am I going to say? Like all my German, Romanian people who grew up in New York that don't know who they are, that don't have a national identity, blah, and then you go through life and you're like, actually, those specifics don't necessarily matter. You can connect with people just because a lot of people feel like an outsider, or just because a lot of people, like you say about your friend from Maracaibo, like he lived there, he was there, but he didn't feel like he was from there for some reason. He thought he was an alien, you know? And so...
Which we are, by the way, when we get here.
Exactly.
That's
we
what
are called aliens. Yes.
We are that.
Angelo, I always ask my guests if they have a favorite saying or something from their country. I also looked some up that I thought were funny that are supposedly from Venezuela. Creerse la última Coca-Cola en desierto.
En el desierto.
En el desierto. You think you're the last Coca-Cola in the desert?
Yes.
I love that saying. That's so fucking funny.
That one, I don't think it's completely Venezuelan.
Oh, it's not?
No, I think I may have heard it in other countries, but it certainly said there a lot. Like a lot of people say that all the time.
So like you think you're something special, right?
No, you think you're the only one.
You're the only one.
Like you're the most special one, not something.
Yeah.
The most special.
Like who do you think you are?
Like
you think
you're
you're
full
the
of
last
shit, pretty
Coca-Cola
much.
in the desert? But I love that it's not water, it's Coca-Cola.
No, it's Coca-Cola because people drink Coke a lot in places like this where it's super hot.
I also love this one. Ser más agarrado que vieja en moto.
Wait, listen. First, your Spanish is awesome. So,
you.
Dylan, you gotta acknowledge that your Spanish is awesome. I'd never heard that.
You never heard that? So it means.
But it makes sense.
It means you're like tighter, like you're holding on. You're tighter than an old lady on a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle probably with somebody, you know, because people
Holding
ride
on.
moto taxis, you know, like.
But it means you're cheap. It said that it means it's about someone
Agarrado it means you're codo. That's how they call it too.
Codo.
Codo. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, you want to hear more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me learn with you. I'm learning now.
You didn't know that one either?
That one, but that makes sense. You know,
Okay.
like it's always ser más agarrado, and then they add something up. You know what I mean?
Okay, I love that. Okay, so you can make up your own.
Like
Ser
my
más agarrado
yeah,
de-
exactly. My dad always says, "Más feo que carro por debajo," which means like you're uglier than a car. Like the underneath of a car, like the bottom of a car. But the last part you just add it. You make it up pretty much.
You can make it up. I love that. Okay. Éramos muchos y parió la abuela. There were many of us and the grandma gave birth.
Yeah.
Like when something like couldn't get worse.
It couldn't get worse.
That's so
Something
funny.
adds
the
up to it.
grandma gave birth.
Yeah. That's how they say it. Yeah. Because it's also a real one, I think. In the sense of families, this is a stereotype, but it's true. It's very third worldly, I guess. But yeah, my dad had 10 siblings, you know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And another child came.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, there were so many of us, and then another one.
And this is a good example because actually, when my oldest auntie had her first child, my grandma was giving birth to my dad at the time. Like my dad was born at the time, so he's like there's not a huge age gap between him and his.
So when her daughter was giving birth to her child, she also was giving birth to your dad.
So that's a good example of why they say that.
Wow. Okay. So you know that one. Okay. This one is also about old people. El diablo sabe más por viejo que por diablo.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's a good one. That's
a
poetic.
really good one.
The devil knows more from being old than from being the devil.
Yeah, it means just like being older means you're wiser, even if you're an expert in something. You know,
Even if you're an expert in evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have one that's your favorite?
Yes, I have one that's my favorite. My favorite one is chivo que se desvuelve se esnuca. But we say esnuca because we're Venezuelan and we don't pronounce the S. Not all the time. But it would be chivo que se desvuelve se esnuca, which is like a goat that turns back, breaks his neck.
Oh.
It means like if you have a choice already, if you've already made a decision about something, you just keep going. You don't turn back. You got to commit to whatever. Yeah. And
That's a good New York philosophy, too.
That's a good New York philosophy.
Keep fucking walking, motherfucker.
Okay. I wouldn't have said it that way, but I got scared for a second. Should we go? Is that what you're saying? Should I leave right now?
So you say that to yourself in life?
I do say that to myself.
Don't be the goat that turns its back.
I don't regret anything. Well, I can be sorry for
Nothing?
things. No, regret, no.
You didn't listen
I
to the
feel sorry
Backstreet Boys at one time in your life? No, you're too young.
I still
No music
love the
choices?
Backstreet Boys. So, first of all, I feel like you lost me there. That was the first concert where I went to. I was 8 years old.
Shut the fuck
and
up.
I did auditions, singing Incomplete, and I think the other one was Larger Than Life, probably. I'm a huge boy band fan.
Oh my God.
I stand by it.
I got the vibe. I did. Vibes are real.
I know.
Vibes are real.
I know.
did get the vibe, and then I was like, he's too young for the Backstreet Boys.
No, sadly. And the thing is, like, it's any, like, boy bands, like NSYNC, I can do. It's going to be me.
Did you have a favorite Backstreet Boy?
Yeah. I think at the time was Nick, but then I grew up and I was like, oh, it's certainly Brian.
Nick Carter, didn't he die?
Yeah. No.
His brother died.
Did he
Somebody
die?
died, yes.
Did his brother
Aaron
die?
Carter died.
I think he got 8.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. He died. Oh,
He
well,
died.
sorry for his loss.
Yeah, we're
But
sorry for your loss, Nick
he's not
Carter.
gonna watch
I
this.
know
He's
you're
not an
listening.
immigrant.
No, he's
Is he?
a fan.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Not anymore since you said that.
Hey, I
since
was
you
a
took a
Backstreet
shot
Boy
at
fan.
him. Like, you were kind of judging of Backstreet Boys. I'm like, what? What are you
I love
talking
that that's the first concert you went to in Maracaibo.
In Maracaibo, yeah. My
What?
mom took me. She was a fan.
Huge.
I'm a fan of everything my mom is a fan of. And it's like, it sucks,
Okay,
but I
that's
grew
the
up
most
that way.
Venezuelan thing you've ever
It's
said.
yeah. With music, she's a young mom. So
My
she,
aunt is
yeah.
Venezuelan, by the way.
Is she?
My uncle's married to a Venezuelan woman from Valencia.
Oh, they're beautiful. People from Valencia are gorgeous.
You? I'll take it for her.
Okay, yeah. What's a Venezuelan thing you've learned or seen from her that's very unique?
Oh my God. Now you're putting me on the spot. What's a Venezuelan thing I've learned or seen from her? I mean, she was always so like loving and warm, and they live in Germany, and I always kind of felt bad for her because people are so reserved there. So and she's always like, you know, hugging everybody and calling all the women mommy, and it's so cute and so loving. And I feel like I always wanted to like be like, oh, fuck, why are you in Germany? It's so sad here, you know. But obviously they couldn't live in Venezuela anymore. They are like, they want to go back, and it's heartbreaking for them.
Right.
But they just couldn't be there anymore. It was like crazy the things they experienced, you know.
It's also a good reputation to have. That's what you're saying, that being seen that way, it's like, it's nice because now people have her. Maybe Venezuela doesn't, but people have us.
Yes,
I feel
that's
like
true.
so you
And
want to bring
thing-
something, you know.
Another thing is they live in a tiny apartment in Berlin. And when my grandma was alive, they took her into the apartment. Then like her daughter came with her 2 kids, and I'm talking like it's like a 400 square foot apartment.
Éramos muchos y parió la abuela.
Yeah, exactly.
That's yeah.
But they made it work, and they put like plants everywhere, and just like, and there's music, and it just like, I felt like, okay, that's definitely a cultural thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Germans would be like, you can't do that. There's not enough room. And they were like, no, there's room. They put a curtain up and a bed behind the curtain, and then they, you know, and they made it work, and they wanted my grandma there more than to put her into an old, you know, senior home or something.
Right.
Which, yeah, and it was kind of like not done with this like attitude of like, oh my God, I have to take care of this old lady. It was like, of course, this is how
it's not even a debate. It's like by default, that's what you do.
Yeah.
I feel like.
So I think that was a beautiful thing that I saw from her. It was so, and it felt cultural, you know?
That is cultural.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between figuring things out. I think figuring something out is very American. I've mentioned that before. It's like figuring out is finding the way, right? Like doing like it's like an Oppenheimer scene. Anytime Americans have an issue, it's like it's
they
like
throw a bomb at it?
No, but it's like math, you know. Anytime Americans have a problem, they figure it out. There's math to it. There's a method.
Yes.
There's trying to find a method. Whereas with us, I feel like you just do it.
Right.
It's like resolver, and then you just do it, and then you're in depth, and then you and then you kind of you go along, that you play along, kind of. I feel like that's a cultural thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 pumps to
you
it.
nuke the shit out of it. The American way, you know? It's like a scene from Oppenheimer. We now must play the Immigrant Jam games. Are you ready for this, Angelo Colina?
I'm not, but
From
shoot.
Maracaibo, by way of Bogota, by way of Salt Lake City, by way of New York City, by way of the Pittsburgh Improv. Getting your name wrong?
You're good at this.
Angelo Colina, are you ready to play Immigrant Jam games?
Yes, I am.
If you were the president of the United States of America, what American food would you ban?
Oof.
Hard-hitting questions here.
Hash browns.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
hash browns.
I'm not even sorry.
What? First time answer. Hash browns.
It is the worst.
It's just chopped up potatoes. What's the matter?
It's the worst way to have potatoes.
Why?
I just haven't like. I'm used to Colombian potato too. It's so good, you know.
I've heard that they're good.
Which for them, they were like, we just call it potato. I'm like, I know. You wouldn't. I know you do.
Okay, hash browns. Final answer?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go back to most towns you've done shows in now.
You know
No,
what?
I'm joking.
That's okay. I wasn't
Okay.
planning to.
If you, Angelo Colina, could deport one American person, who would you deport?
Deport?
Yeah.
Oof. I feel like I should say. Should I say?
You can say whatever you want.
If I could deport anyone, I can't deport anyone.
Okay,
Not to
okay,
me. Okay, wait. I'm trying to. I would deport. I'm gonna say Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Really making up for that women aren't funny comment earlier. Nice.
Oh wait,
Nice
I
save.
said
Nice
I'd
save.
change. What?
No.
I said I'd change because of.
Okay. But you
Don't-
did say it. You did say it. I could clip it. Just that
It's
little clip.
worse
And
if they
Angelo
don't
Colina saying
acknowledge
you're going,
it.
Women aren't funny.
Do you know what?
On a
It's
loop.
worse if people never acknowledge it.
True.
You know, I'm just saying that. No,
Okay.
but he's running free, and that's why I would say it would be nice if he got deported
Okay.
because
I
he's
like it.
free now.
Is he? No,
think
he's still
so.
in jail.
But he will be free.
Oh, they're trying to get him free. That's true. What's the most Venezuelan thing you've ever done?
The most Venezuelan thing I've ever done?
Yes.
Probably saying women weren't funny a while ago, and then explaining the reason why. No, the most Venezuelan thing I've ever done, was probably I went to. This is such a stupid name drop, but I did get invited. And the first Venezuelan day ever at the White House, I got invited. And first Venezuela, there were like 4 new countries that had like their day, like Dominican Republic was one, and Venezuela had one. It was November 30, I believe, last year. And I got invited.
What?
And yes, and I really, 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 really needed to go to the bathroom.
You took a shit in the White House?
I'm not going to say I did.
You
I'm
did.
just going to say
You
I went
did.
to the bathroom. I would
He's
never say
refusing
that.
the high five. But
Okay, I
feel
just
like
said- I just did that.
Nice. Okay, I love that. That's epic. Okay, what's the most American thing you've ever done? USA thing you've ever done?
USA thing?
Yeah.
Probably eating hash browns. The most USA thing I've ever done was going to it was January 6th and we were, Jesus, was going to a Jonas Brothers concert.
Oh shit, that is
It was
super
great, by the way.
American. A Jonas
Great.
Brothers concert. Okay, last question.
And living in
Most-
Salt Lake City, Utah, probably.
That is very, very US.
Very
That's true.
US.
Last question, most important question of the podcast. Angelo Colina, do you know how I can meet David Hasselhoff?
Is he in LA?
He is in LA.
I was like, my first question was, is he still alive? But
That's fucked up.
that was my first question.
Yes, he's alive.
You're obsessed with him?
Yes.
Can I ask why?
Because I'm German and Germans are obsessed with David Hasselhoff. No, I was obsessed. I liked him as a kid. And then my mom wouldn't let me put up a poster of him because my parents slept in the room that I thought was my room, but it was their room. But I thought it was my room. So I wanted to put up a poster of him. And she said, I'm not going to sleep under that pervert's face. I don't know why she thinks he's a pervert. And then she was like, and anyway, in like a year, you won't like him anymore. So I vowed to love him forever.
Oh,
it's
so
all
this
to
is
spite my mother.
just being, this is you being stubborn.
Immature. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
you being like, it's not even real. It's you.
It is real. It became real. You know how when
But
you
you're being a
convince yourself-
rebel against your mom still.
Well, I
A little
guess.
bit.
I guess so. But now I do. I love him. It's fun to love him. I've been looking for freedom. You know he's a singer, right? He's famous for
Yeah, I
his music
knew
in
that.
Germany.
I knew that. Of course, he's super important in Venezuela.
Angelo Colina, where can people find you online for the 2 people that don't already follow you? 2 people left on Earth.
First of all, thank you for having me. You're great. You're so good at this.
No,
you're so
you're so
quick
good at
and
this.
you're such a good listener too. Just Angelo Colina. That's my name. That's every platform. Yeah.
At Angelo Colina.
At if it's X Twitter.
What
But
do you
yeah,
mean?
it's Angelo Colina. That's my handle.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
they're
Okay.
like-
Okay, sorry.
It's just my name. Yeah, my name. I'm that guy. Yeah,
Okay.
I can be Angelo Colina in Twitter,
Everywhere.
TikTok, Instagram,
Perfect.
So yeah, there's
And
not
you
a
have
lot of
shows.
us.
You have a show coming because I think this will come out like tomorrow. So you have a show
for
coming
real?
up in New York.
This is awesome. Yes. So, well, it is. I do have to tell people,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, because I wasn't funny in English. I do comedy in Spanish most of the time. And so I'm shooting my comedy special on Thursday at the Gramercy Theater here in New York. And then I pick back. I'm going to New Jersey on the 27th. I haven't
no one's
announced that yet.
That's fine.
And I might announce right now that I'm going to Puerto Rico.
What?
July 21st. For the first time ever, I'm going to Puerto Rico.
To San Juan?
To San Juan. To Old San Juan.
Ooh, where are you playing there? What's it called?
At Teatro Tapia. So I'm super excited about this. Hope to see you there. Va a ser en español, entonces ven al show. Estoy demasiado emocionado, feliz y honrado de ir a Puerto Rico.
Eso.
So eso, that's really good. You can pretend like you have really good pronunciation. I just told you I was a teacher. I can tell you. Just keep going.
Thank you so much.
And keep going. Go to Devoción instead of
Keep going to Devoción.
instead of a bagel.
People follow Angelo. Go see his shows. Go see his shows, even if you don't speak Spanish. You might learn something, or you might have a great experience. Just hearing words you don't understand. No, go see his shows. Follow him. Like his stuff. Love him. Slide into his DMs and tell him about your Backstreet Boy memories and moments. Send him a video of you doing a dance. I don't know. Don't do that. Leave him alone. Follow him.
Do it.
Love him. Go see his shows. And come see my show this Saturday at Caveat, June 22nd at 7 p.m. It's my new hour. It's going to be fun. And thank you so much to Dylan. New producer in the house today. Half Colombian, half. What's the other half?
Italiano.
Half Italiano. So fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our patrons. You know who you are. We love you so much. Thank you for sticking with us through our little hiatus. We're back now, and we love you. Be cool.